content to get through today. So let me get my slides up. Welcome to day 2 of the trauma improvement sprint. As I said, lots to get through today. So I'm going to do kind of just a quick welcome and introduction, and then we can jump in. So let me start with our acknowledgement and disclaimer. Emergency Medical Services for Children Innovation and Improvement Center is supported by the Health Resources and Services Administration, or HRSA, of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services as part of the following award, totaling $3 million with 0% financed with non-governmental sources. The contents are those of the authors and do not necessarily represent the official views of, nor an endorsement by HRSA, HHS, or the U.S. government. For more information, please visit hrsa.gov. We have no conflicts of interest to disclose, and this session is being recorded. And a recording of this session will be posted to the Trauma Improvement website under the following link. So quick welcome. You are muted and in listen mode only. So you have no video or able to come off mute. You will, however, in the last hour, we will switch to a Zoom meeting, regular Zoom meeting. That link is at the bottom of the agenda if you follow this QR code. And you'll be able to have audio and video during that last hour, so you can ask some questions and engage a little bit more with our speakers and our hosts. So given that, you are welcome to use the chat for comments and the Q&A box for questions. Wherever you want to stick them, we're fine with get them answered for you. And then, as I mentioned, join us for the discussion hour at the end of the day. Slides are available. So the slides, if you go to this link on our website, so pwc/trauma/recordings, the day 2 slides, the full set is posted there for you. I posted both the slides as well as like a slide handout that has like 4 slides or so per page, so you can use those to take notes on. And I can probably have, maybe Lisa, you can drop that link in the chat if possible so they can access the slides for today. That would be great. And also I have my email up and running, so if you have any issues or questions, please email me. Collaboratives@emscimprovement.center, and we'll try to hopefully get any questions or comments you may have addressed. Continuing education credits. Once again, the planners and presenters of this course have no conflicts of interest to disclose. Our learning objectives for these 2 days of the trauma improvement sprint is to understand how the new VRC standards will incorporate pediatric readiness into improved pediatric care at all trauma centers. We're going to describe the responsibilities of the pediatric emergency care coordinator and who at your center could potentially fill this role, and really how you go about driving pediatric readiness, improvement in pediatric readiness at your center, and really understand how to implement these efforts. So to claim CE credit, you must attend the live sessions. That's an ENA requirement, not ours, unfortunately, and complete the post-session evaluation each day. So these will be automatically emailed to you following today's session. You should have received one last week for last week's session as well. If you complete both those, we will get your CE credit to you. There is quite a few people looking for CE, so give us a few weeks, but we will try to get it to you as soon as we can. And once again, if you have any questions about CE, email me, collaboratives@emscimprovement.center. So just a quick snapshot at today's agenda. Once again, if you follow that QR code, you can download the PDF of the agenda. Brief welcome by me, and then we're going to jump into policies and procedures. And often maybe a drier topic, but the fabulous Sally Snow is going to make it really engaging and interesting for you. And then we will move through patient safety and family-centered care. We have Karen Groenweg, who is a certified child life specialist. We'll talk to you a little bit about the work she does. Take a quick break for lunch and jump into communication and collaboration across systems of care. You'll hear from Lisa Nichols, who's a pediatric trauma program manager in Florida. And then the last hour, you get me talking about probably one of our favorite topics here at the IC, which is quality improvement methodology. And then I will wrap things up, and then we will have that open discussion hour for the last hour of the day if you'd like to join us. That last hour is completely optional. You do not have to attend that last hour in order to get your CE credit. So we will, like last week, be using Poll Everywhere to ask a few questions during this session. There's a few ways you can access the Poll Everywhere app. So you can either go to your web browser following this link, pulleverywhere.com/trauma sprint. You can scan this QR code. They have a Pull Everywhere mobile app. You can get it in the Apple Store, Google Play, as well as just text Trauma Sprint to 22333, and that will send you a link to get to the Pull Everywhere as well. So I have a couple of just trial ones so we can really get used to this Pull Everywhere before we jump in. So I like this one. I did this last week, and that's where are you joining us from today? Okay. I know this map's a little tricky because there's no way to kind of zoom in, but yes, I can go back and put the QR code back up in 1 minute before we go to the next one. But we see Alaska, New Jersey, New York, Saudi Arabia. Welcome, very neat. Sunny Southern California. I know some of us are pretty jealous of that. Monterey, welcome. Okay, you guys can keep putting those in. I'm going to go back to the QR code for some of you to get that one. Maybe a few more minutes to try to get there. Okay, see this, slow down a little bit. Hopefully everyone's got it. I'm going to go to our next one, which is just a fun one. And it's, what is the strangest gift you've ever received? Ohio. Kidding. Finger piano. Interesting. Chicken. The headache, Gary, I like that. That's a good gift. Good. Toilet paper, John. That's not such a bad gift, I think, these days, right? I think we all learned that. Full of lifesavers, plastic earrings, meat, banana hanger. Okay, fine. Well, it sounds like you guys have the hang of using Pull Everywhere, so that's awesome. That's the point here. So I think with that, I am going to turn it over to Lisa Gray, who is our trauma program domain lead here at the EIC, to walk you through a little bit of policies and procedures, and then she will turn it over to the wonderful Sally Snow. So go ahead, Lisa. Let me pause there. I haven't actually even seen the chat. Let me see if there's any questions. Let's see here. Okay, multiple PDSA cycles and the write-ups are complex, meaningful, and time-consuming. How many projects a year should be done using this process? It is easy to want to change many things at once, but not all changes can go through this process, especially if you're not given dedicated time in the role of a PEC. And I think that's very true. And you know, I think that's why at the beginning, it's important that you work very closely with the kind of ongoing quality initiatives within your organization. And so that you're really immersing yourself in that process. You have sort of this idea of the quality improvement process, and you can really then advocate for the pediatric considerations and then really join in that team and understand how to go about improvement. You know, it's hard to say maybe how many projects a year should be done using this process. I think, you know, like I said, it can take time. And so it really depends. It depends on the project, it depends on the team, it depends on a whole lot of your environment. And I always hate the it depends answers, but it really does. It really depends on kind of what you have available to you. Not really seeing any more questions. So why don't I kind of talk about phase 2, because it really is sort of in line right here with our discussion on quality improvement methodology and the IC's approach to QI. And then we can wrap up for the day and go into the discussion hours. So as I discussed last week, this trauma improvement sprint is actually a small piece of a larger quality improvement collaborative that the EIC has been running since September. And this has been it's called the PEG Workforce Development Collaborative, or the PWDC. And we spent about a month on each of these focus areas. So we had a 2-hour learning session each month where we really took a deep dive into the learning session. Our guest speakers had a whole hour for their presentation and a discussion, and we looked at more of the key drivers and the change strategies in each of these areas, each of these focus areas. Those are all recorded and available on our website if you want to dig into them in more depth. There's also an accompanying PDF, which has what we call our focus area guide, has more information and resources listed as well. And so for that collaborative, that was phase 1. And really, this 2-day trauma improvement sprint has been this condensed version of phase 1. So that's why phase 2 is really where we turn it over to you all to implement a quality improvement project of your own within your organization. And we were going to coach you through it. So a couple of the project areas that we'd like you to maybe choose from, and these are very broad. You can do a lot of things within each of these areas. And one is the PEC role itself. So advocating for, time, really defining the roles and responsibilities of the PEC, growing a PEC network in your region. Next is something around equipment, supplies, and medication, organization of those. Optimizing one of those is, as Lisa talked in the last hour, about C-collars, policies and procedures. Sally spent a fantastic morning running through all the different policies and procedures you might want to consider implementing. And then care team competencies. Maybe you want to do something around SIM that Mark talked about last week. So project ideas, really, how do you get an idea of what you want to do? You probably already have maybe a good idea of some of the areas you might want to focus. Another one can be this informal, poll of your staff that you guys suggested as one of your change strategies. Get an idea of, kind of what's ongoing at your hospital, and can you incorporate an element of this there? You can also take the 2021 National Pediatric Readiness Assessment, or even just work through the checklists, which we've pointed to, I think, multiple times today, and that'll give you a good idea of where you might want to focus. As well as those focus area guides have these environmental scan worksheets. So those are on our website as well. And that'll help you work through these project areas and really kind of identify how you might want to approach improvement. So at a glance, it's a short phase 2. As I talked about, a lot of our quality improvement collaboratives are 18 to 24 months. This is 4 months, maybe. So it launches on March 17th and it runs through June 30th. So it's quick. And really the idea is that you're not going to complete an entire QI project in this time. But really the goal is to coach you through how you can plan and begin to implement a QI project for a pediatric population at your organization. So just kind of a brief overview of the topics we'll go through each month. Kicking off in March, we're going to talk about key stakeholders and aim statements again. We'll go at the end of March, we will talk about measurement and change strategies. April, we'll begin planning your first PDSA cycle. And then May and June is where we might have to get a little creative. We may not have data here or real data. So this is where we can kind of walk through the process and maybe predict and maybe even play with the data a little bit yourself and what you think might happen. And that's when you can talk about communicating your progress and evaluating your progress. Are you going to adapt, or abandon? And then we will finish up with talking about how you can really sustain your efforts and how you can continue improvement at the end of the collaborative. So these red dates are optional. They're coaching sessions. They're open hours like we're going to have here in a few minutes, where you can really come to us with your questions and we can walk through some of your issues that maybe you're having. So kind of looking at phase 2 at each of these sessions in more depth. Each session is 90 minutes. So we're going to start with a brief welcome and an overview of the topic. So if the topic is measurement that day, we'll maybe talk through the types of measures again. And then we're going to go into small breakout rooms with a QI coach in each one for an hour. And that's really where each person participating in phase 2 will share their work. So if the session is on a Thursday, that Sunday preceding, you're going to fill out a slide. And I have this slide template that's available on the website too. And they're simple. It's like, what is your aim statement and what's your SMART aim? And so in these small breakout rooms, everyone will share their SMART aim. And as a group, we can really refine them and improve them together. And then for the last 20 minutes or so of each session, we'll come back to the main room. We'll talk about kind of what are you going to do next? What are we expecting? So if we talked about measures in the next session, we're going to talk about change strategies. So how do you go about identifying change strategies? And then kind of talk about expectations. So those slides will be sent to your small breakout room, so everyone has an opportunity to look at them before we come to this session on Thursday. And your coach, so you can kind of review. Those small breakouts are going to stay the same through March through June. So hopefully you'll get a core group of people. They will be kind of based on these project areas. So you'll hopefully have someone that's working on something similar to you that you can bounce ideas off of. Oops. And as well as your coach. So that'll remain same all the way through June. And then last but not least, kind of a couple of things, participation. So unfortunately for this, because we are asking you to be a little bit vulnerable and we are asking you to present your work, you must be working on a project to participate in phase 2. So you can't really just come along to observe because then you're really not exposing yourself to the same degree that we're asking for some of our other participants. And these sessions will not be recorded for later viewing due to kind of the nature of we're going to have multiple breakout rooms. It might be kind of difficult. And once again, out of respect for you all sharing your work and maybe asking questions and anything you want. So that's, I think, about it for phase 2. I don't know why this keeps doing this to me. I'm just looking kind of, if we have to miss a session, is that an issue for phase 2? I don't think it's going to be an issue. If you have to miss a session, it's totally fine. I would encourage you to send your slide anyway, so the group kind of gets an idea of your progress and what you're working on. But we do realize that you are very busy clinically and that you may not be able to make every session. That's okay. I think that's completely fine. And I see also that phase 1, yes, phase 1 is available for view. It's on our website. I can show you where to get to all those recordings here in a minute. Kind of have some quick housekeeping items, continuing education. These are our learning objectives. Once again, so to claim this, you should have attended the live session today. And then later this afternoon, this evening, you will get a evaluation sent to you. We must fill out the evaluation. And then give us a couple weeks. There's quite a few of you who are going to need certificates. So we will do our best to work through them and get them to you as soon as we can. But it may take some time to get you your credits. So this was approved for 8 hours of CNE. And lastly, a great place to start, even if you are not going on to do phase 2 with us, is to find your score. So if you completed the 2020 National Pediatric Readiness Assessment, your ED nurse manager should have that information. If they don't, or they're not sure, you can contact your state or territory EMSC program manager, and you can find their information by going to this link. Now, this link takes you to a map of the United States and our territories. Click on your state or territory, and then filter the results by current grants, and then the state partnership grant. And then if you click on more details, you'll be able to find your program manager's contact information. If you can't find it, email me. I can help you find it and put you in contact with them. If you're fairly certain you never took the assessment, what you can do is go to pedsready.org. And right now there is a paper version of the assessment. And you can take it yourself and self-score yourself and really begin to look at your gaps there. So I think I've alluded to this kind of throughout the day, that there are several quality improvement collaboratives upcoming over the next few years that the EIC will be rolling out. So here we are at the tail end of the PEC Workforce Development Collaborative, of which this is a kind of a subset. About mid to end August of this year, we'll be rolling on a mental or behavioral health collaborative. This one will be specifically focused on developing a care pathway for children presenting to the ED with acute suicidality. Then we will, about the same time, launch one on disaster networking, and this is really about growing the pediatric voice within the disaster or regions disaster planning. We'll next then roll out the Pediatric Readiness Quality Collaborative 2.0. We have launched a version of this several years back, and this is sort of an updated version focused on some specific areas of pediatric readiness, some more at the system, some a little bit more condition specific. And then we will offer the PEC Workforce Development Collaborative again. So fall of 2023, about a year and a half from now, we're going to roll out this program again on PEC development. And then two more, well, one more really focused on pediatric disaster response. This will have 6 different bundles on different aspects of pediatric disaster response, such as patient tracking and reunification or communication with the medical home. There's going to be some various aspects that this disaster networking collaborative, this PEC workforce, this disaster one will be rolled out in coordination with the new pediatric pandemic network, of which we are a part, which is very much focused on pediatric disaster preparedness. And then finally, launching in September of 2025, we will launch a pediatric medical recognition collaborative. As trauma programs, you're obviously very familiar with the trauma recognition. This would be specifically for pediatric medical recognition. A fair amount of states already have something like this in place, but we will work to kind of optimize that here in a couple of years. So I think with that, let me see any more questions in the chat. Phase 2 cohorts again are just associated. No, Chrissy, I think, we will, when we roll the PEC Workforce Development Collaborative out again, we will have phase 2 cohorts. Or you can consider jumping into one of these QI collaboratives that we're offering over the next few years. They'll work on a very specific element. And these will be fairly intensive. For instance, with the Pediatric Readiness Quality Collaborative 2.0 will be, you'll have these really kind of dashboards where you're entering patient level data, and really looking at improvement on kind of that more in-depth level. Just trying to see. I don't know if Michelle and Lisa, you've looked more through the chat. Is there any questions maybe I've missed while I'm talking?
I think I've been trying to get most of them. I did post day one's link.
Oh, thank you.
And responded to somebody who had questions about their data.
I think most of them got covered.
Okay, awesome. So the link to register for phase 2 is part of what we had as the intake questionnaire for this program for the trauma improvement sprint. I will have the system send it out again this afternoon to everyone who hasn't completed it. Right there at the bottom is an option to opt into phase 2. Also email me and you can, I'll send it to you as well. Open discussion hour is next. I want to, we're probably, I think we're a little ahead of schedule because for this last hour, we didn't have a breakout or a guest speaker in. So yeah, I really have about, well, no, not really. Yeah, not till 4 o'clock Eastern is the discussion hour. So maybe a few minutes. I'll probably head over there in maybe 10 minutes or so, kick off the discussion hour. And that's really where you can ask questions. You can come off mute. You can really have open discussion. This is optional. You don't have to attend this last hour for your CE credit. If you've made it this far, you've got your CE credit in the bag. I promise we will get it to you as fast as we can. Let me drop this link into the chat so you can get over there. And like I said, these have all been recorded and I will post that and I'll send an email out to y'all when the recordings are available. The slides are up there right now. And I want to just thank you all for your time and for sticking with us through kind of a really full day. Hopefully you learned a lot. We're here for you to help you. Catherine sent some email with some telehealth policy examples. I will get those to you. Thank you, Catherine. And I think, Catherine, that's a reminder of my last shout out to contact your EMSC program manager, get in contact with them. They're one of your best resources within your state to really drive forward pediatric readiness. So we will see y'all, I think, probably about 10 minutes or so. We'll head over there.
Are you putting that in the link, Meredith, or in the chat?
I did.
Okay,
Put it again.
I just missed it. I'm sorry.
There. Maybe
Thank
I
you.
only did it to host. No, I did everything.